Welcome, guys, to another episode of A1 Agents. I've got a good friend of mine that I have just yet to meet, and I'm excited to get to know him, as all of you guys will. He's my good friend, Gregg Blanchard. Gregg started his insurance agency journey in 2007. He built his business into 4 insurance offices and into a $26 million book, which is about 14,000 policies in force. Prior to insurance, he built a successful real estate business before selling it. His experience with real estate largely contributed to his success with partnerships and center of influences, especially mortgage and loan officers. Gregg is a husband, a father of 6, and he looks like he all around enjoys life to the fullest. Gregg, thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Glad to be here, Nick.
So, Gregg, if you don't mind, share your story, who you are, with my audience.
So I'm a Floridian. I was born in Miami Beach, lived there for about 5 years, and we slowly migrated up, more north in Florida to the Fort Lauderdale area. So I'm a very unique individual in the fact that I'm not a transplant. So I'm a 3rd generation native Floridian, grew up playing sports. Really enjoyed in my professional career sales, and have always kind of been, I guess I always say this all the time, a student of the game. And really, have in my presentation that I've given on Craig's platform, I've had 22 jobs, and this is hopefully going to be the last career that I land on. Although I'm trying a couple other businesses that I'm working, on it in the current moment. But like I said, a big lover of sports. I'm a father. I come from a very, very large family. I've got 18 brothers and sisters, 2 sets of twin brothers. So I've got a pretty interesting story. And, come on here, and I'm a coach on Craig's platform to help learn and train and mentor other agents just like yourself that are trying to scale. I remember when I first started back in 2007, I had 19 people in my graduating class. And I'm the only one that's still here. So it really doesn't have anything to do about me. It just goes to show you that the business isn't easy, and we didn't have any technology. We didn't have social media. We're still using faxes to get quotes across to customers. And we didn't have anywhere near the technology that we have now. So it was definitely an interesting transition. I've been in sales my entire life. I've always carried a bag. So I've sold, telecommunication services. I worked for Research in Motion, which was BlackBerry, that was sold, from Bell South Mobility over to AT&T. And I've sold anything you could probably think of. I started, a newspaper route when I was 12. I was a floor guard at the local skating rink. I've sold sneakers. I've done it all. So I've got a pretty colorful history, but landing in this particular situation with Allstate was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because there's nothing like kind of the power of residual income.
Yeah, which is kind of leads me to my next question of all the things that you've tried, right? Like you went to Costco and you just tried everything, right?
Yeah.
and so why did the buck stop with insurance? What was it about insurance that just screamed at you and said, all right, this is where I'm pitching my tent, and this is where I'm going to go?
So there's kind of an interesting backstory that you'll see how it ties into kind of where we are now. My mother had worked in the claims department for State Farm for right around 22 years down in Tamarack, which is about an hour south of here. And unbeknownst to me, she actually worked in the cubicle right next to our president of our company, Glenn Shapiro. And we didn't realize that until we were out at national conference 5 years ago. And this guy looked really, really familiar. He came in with this 3-legged dog and his wife, and he was all disheveled. And I'm like, man, do you need any help? And he's like, no, we're on a, 12-hour drive or whatever the case may be from, I believe he was down in Tamarack. He's got a condo down there. And actually Lisa Fina is his agent. And he told me that he's from Tamarack, and we started talking. Turned out at that time, Glenn was the head of claims, and we worked the numbers backwards. And we kind of found out that my mother had worked at State Farm in the cubicle next to him, back in probably 1996. So it was an interesting history there. We kind of tied it, all together. But what had happened in 2006, my mother came down with Lou Gehrig's disease. also known as ALS. And unfortunately, she had passed in 2006. And the last love letter that my mother kind of left to me and my family and my brother was a life insurance policy. And the single most important thing that your viewers should understand is, life insurance is the most important product that we sell in our portfolio. It used to garner a lot of attention, but we shouldn't keep our eye off the ball, because that single love letter that actually sent my kids to college and gave me the ability to have this money to start this Allstate business was due to my mom's last, love letter to me in the form of a check for an insurance policy. So it was a very poignant part of my life. It made things very, very passionate for me and passionable for me. And I wanted to make sure that I kind of continue her legacy by doing for others and protecting families in the same fashion. So, I used that as fuel to burn the fire. And I understood that a lot of the guys at State Farm were in khakis and they were playing golf on Thursdays. I thought that was kind of a boring industry, but when I got introduced to the business from a prior Allstate agent that's no longer with the agency she had sold about 3 years ago, I understood the compound effect when it comes, to residual income. And for me, if I was sleeping and making money, I was all over that.
Well, so you're 15 years into this industry, right? Or into
So in 2007, I started. So obviously coming up on November, it'll be 15 years in for me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I started scratch with not a single customer back in those days. I didn't have any employees. I would call forward my phone to my cell phone, and I was knocking on everybody's door that I knew of. Anybody that was in my sphere of influence, I was chasing down. And in my real estate career, I had 7 real estate offices. So naturally, a lot of those agents that used to work for me had gone on to build their own empire and their own real estate firm. So I naturally got together with those folks and built my center of influence around those people that used to work in my industry. Now they were bird dogs for me, so they can send me opportunities for insurance. And it was a very good symbiotic relationship that we could work together on. And, we grew the business in 2007 organically from literally zero customers till I got my first employee 10 months later to right around 14 million in premium in about 7 years. So we had a pretty big pace. There's a lot of things I didn't know, and a lot of things I made mistakes on. I fell flat on my face plenty of times, but I asked a lot of questions, and I did a lot of the things that you do, and I see that you doing, interviewing and asking all those questions, because people out there to help you. You just have to ask those individuals for their time and their resources and their knowledge, and they're gonna be able to help you. So that's kind of what happened. And then in 2018, I actually made my first acquisition. I bought 2 different offices in 2 different cash flow markets in the same day. So I got special approval to do that. I would not recommend doing that for anybody in the future. But we did buy 2 different offices in 2 different territories on the same day, and grew it till then. And we had an amazing year in 2021, and we wrote close to $4 million in new premium in 2021. And team's getting bigger and bigger, and all the guys that work for me are super, super successful, and they really love what they do.
Yeah, you built one heck of a business, and I can hear all those COI referrals coming into your email like as we speak.
They roll in all the time. It's roughly 46% of our business is referrals. So it's a very good ROI, and it's a seamless process. And what I try to make the team understand is that you have to build your business silo inside my business the way that I built it. And then you're going to have to work smarter, not harder, and you'll be able to build a very, very successful business in here. You'll have the unlimited marketing budget that you need, the technology. You just need to work. That's it.
Yeah, I love that, man. I tell my team the same thing. Like, you're an intrapreneur. Like, what I am for Allstate is basically what you are for me, and build it. I'll give you my corporate card.
Yeah.
So let's talk about. I hear Florida is not the easiest state to build a business in, just because of all the hurricanes and stuff like that. So, and so those partnerships are probably huge for you. Can you talk us through what is the blueprint for building successful partnerships? Like, if someone's just starting out, like, what are some of the things that you did?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Just in my personal experience, I think next to maybe New York, Florida is the most gnarly state to operate in. We have to deal with so many different underwriting guidelines that pretty much the rest of the country doesn't have to kind of deal with. We've got, I think we're more of a hybrid, right? So we run our Advantage book differently than we run our Allstate book. Of course, we try to bundle and merge, the client portfolios, together as best that we can, but there's a lot of moving parts to it. So in some essence, we do operate like an independent on one side of the house. On the other side of the house, we're captive. But between, underwriting losses, hurricanes, flood, there's just, you have to be very, very knowledgeable about what you're doing in the state of Florida. And ever since the pandemic, it seems like everybody and their mother has been moving to Florida. We always historically have had everybody from the East Coast, from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut moved down to the East Coast, and everybody from the Midwest, from Ohio, Indiana moved to Fort Myers and Naples on the West Coast. But people now, with the change in, the way that they work, their family situation, wanting to maybe get out of the cold, there's just been a big, big influx. And that says a lot about our economic ability to be able to, provide affordable housing. So we're looking at things a lot differently. But to go back to answer your question, I think the most important part about building your business, from the ground up organically, is to go out and do the things that other agency owners are not willing to do. So when I first started, I was shaking hands and kissing babies. I was at every, B&I meeting that I could attend to. I would go to every, real estate networking function I could possibly be a part of. And the thing that you have to remember is when you build those relationships, it's based on personality and your ability to help other people. So I never go in with the mindset that I'm looking for referrals, or introductions, I should say, is the better word now. I go in with the mindset that I'm going to try to see how I can help you close more business, and maybe how I can lower your operating expenses by maybe doing some cooperative marketing. Or if you need to send your team through advanced sales training, maybe I can participate in helping offset some of the costs with that. If you're doing, you're mailing to your farm area, or just listed, or just sold, or you're doing a market update every quarter, as long as I can put my logo on that marketing piece of material, I'm going to pay for half that mailing. So I'm doing all those things proactively to help the real estate agent close more business. And I'm not asking for anything, because that will naturally come my way. Number one, once they see how they get the kid glove experience, like the white glove experience in our organization, how quickly we turn around quotes. And at the end of the day, how professional we are by not calling an 800 number and getting a different operator every single time. So I think that, and also being a member of the community and doing what you're going to say and say what you're going to do, says a lot about the merit that you have inside the your local area. So there's not too many agency owners out there that understand what it's like to be able to, hit the pavement like that and really shake hands out there and network and promote yourself. If more of us did that, we would function better as an Allstate unit together and be able to create a lot more successful opportunities for Allstate agents. But the reality is, at the end of the day, just some people get complacent.
Yeah, 100%. I know. I've seen. I mean, even here in Nevada, a lot of agents they get a little bit of momentum. They get a little bit of renewals coming in, and they start golfing. They start buying stuff that could be reinvested into their business with a long-term, horizon. But it's an interesting business, I'm sure, and we're all guilty of it. I know I'm guilty of it. Where after doing this I've been doing it for 5 years now, where it's very easy to not go and hit the pavement anymore, to not go out and do it myself, and to maybe just hold an expectation for my team to do it. So,
Yeah.
so
But I think the key there is to make your position replaceable, right? So I've got an operations manager, I've got a sales manager, I've got a customer service manager. We have processors in our office that literally process the files for the sales team, because I want to make sure that when they pass the baton to the processor, they don't touch that file again and they're off to the races, right? It doesn't mean don't put a complete file, in the drawer, but it means that file has to be completed and then the processor takes it and finishes it up so they can go on. And those are the hunters of the team. And then the processors and the customer service people are the ones that kind of cultivate, and they're more of the farmers, right? They nurture the accounts and things like that. So I function very much like a mortgage officer would do. The mortgage loan officer pre-qualifies the customer, that file gets right off of his desk, and any follow-up work that they need is handled by the processor. So you got to be able to, number one, delegate. And they say you have to be able to delegate to elevate. And I've kind of used that strategy in my business from day one. And we also in Florida are different because, we have Allstate facing products and we have Advantage facing products. So not only do I separate sales and service and processing, but we've got individuals that only sell Advantage, and I've got individuals that only sell Allstate paper products. So it's a lot. It's an orchestra of a dance that we have to constantly work on, but that comes with the territory. That's the reason why I think the team is successful.
I was just at an orchestra, man, and I I took my mom and grandma to one, so I got to see how they all have to work in sync, and it's pretty crazy, man. I think it must be nice to be the guy just holding the wand and going.
That's right. You're the maestro, right? But to Nick, to be able to get to the point I was trying to make was, when you go out with your team members, and if they're going to go give a presentation to, I use Keller Williams all the time because they're a national brand. They're one of the biggest real estate firms in the entire world. But when you understand Keller Williams, their philosophy, their culture, why they give back to Habitat for Humanity, why they do so much charitable work in their local community, and you understand how they function, once you align yourself in that culture, you become that trusted advisor, and they're only going to use you. So when I bring up some new team members on there and I encourage them to go to Remax or Century 21 or whoever the local real estate firms are, or the lenders, I go with them and I show them how it's done the first time. After that, they're off to the races and they're building their own silo inside my business. So to keep you sharp, go with your team to those functions to be able to level them up.
Absolutely. That's gold right there. Aligning with the mortgage company, real estate company's culture. And you said you run your business very similar to theirs. Can you talk about you're very specialized. So can you talk about, you have processors on your team? Is that like an assistant to your salespeople?
Correct. So the last thing you want to do is, if you're at the Kentucky Derby, right? You don't want to send the Clydesdale out to run the race, right? Because the Clydesdale is that very affluent one that's pulling like the Budweiser, sled, right? So it's always groomed and you're nurturing it. Whereas the Kentucky Derby winner, like Secretariat, you want that thing out of the gate to run as fast as you can, through the gates to be able to win and hunt. So the reason why I separate sales and service is because I want these guys consistently hunting. I want them to go and acquire business. I don't want to weigh them down with a customer has a question because, I don't know, they didn't get a discount, or, there's a mistake on the file and they didn't add Motor Club, whatever the case may be. That's more of a service oriented function. Or if they have a question about their bill, all those cleanup things have to happen on the backside with the people that are skilled to be able to answer those questions, right? From a nurturing perspective. So these guys, obviously we want to make sure that, again, the file is right and correct, but you want them always to hunt. So as soon as they get that file and they bind the policy down, everything on the back end is touched by the processing department. They don't touch it after that.
Okay. And I'm just curious, if you don't mind sharing, what is how do you find your processors, or what's their starting wage? Like, what's kind of like a basic description of that position?
It's not too complicated of a position. A processor, you can find maybe somebody that was surplus from a mortgage company, or people that used to work in the banking industry. If you could take a look at those individuals, they're very good from a clerical perspective, and they've got a high level of attention to detail. So you want to make sure when you're interviewing those candidates that they've got some background in file processing administration, and obviously they have to be very specific about their follow-up. Obviously things are different now, but those base salaries probably start $40,000 for processing. And then what we do is, for every file that they process, we pay them $5 for every process that's closed, because you don't want to put somebody in a kind of a stagnant job and don't reward them for producing. So I think we've written close to 353 policies this month. So, between the two processors, they're going to make a good sum of money. it's just to keep them engaged to make sure those files are up to date and correct. And again, it may seem like a nominal expense for the bigger people, but for the smaller agencies, they might not have the budget to be able to do that. But if you want to set your salespeople free and improve the system, maybe even get yourself a part-time processor or somebody that's on an internship and handle those files for processing, because it'll make a big difference in the time allocated for your producers, and they won't have to be weighed down with all the admin paperwork.
I love that. Was actually my follow-up question is, did you always have processors? But no, that's something you grew into, right?
Yeah, out of necessity. I didn't know what I didn't know, but I wanted to replicate, a lot of the things that I saw in the mortgage business because they were very efficient. And if you think about the amount of paperwork that they have to deal with and files that they have to run through, holy crap, that's very similar to what we do with our Advantage products. Some of the carriers that we have different reports and inspection reports that we have to run through before we even bind a policy. So I wanted to replicate that entire system inside my ecosystem to get the most out of my people.
Got it. Okay. Wow. Can you talk about what you are? A lot of times when people are building partnerships, a lot of times we feel some agencies might feel like we don't have a big enough value proposition, or like, what can we offer them? We know that they don't care about the gift cards. We know they don't care about bringing them, Chipotle.
Yeah.
What are some of the best value propositions besides, the white glove service, which is also huge? What are you presenting to them when you go in your meeting with these mortgage offices?
Well, I've learned, I've created a lot of different processes that I put in place that separates what we do as an insurance agency for our real estate partners that are different than anybody else that does anything else for them. And I can tell you that factually. So we create these flyers for an open house on a Sunday, right? And the days before the pandemic, every Sunday, you have an open house, people come and visit the open house. And what we would do is create a flyer that showed the real estate agent's name, whoever was listing the property, our information on there. And we would give them a quote for the homeowner's insurance policy for that particular property in question, because it's a great little takeaway. It's customized, right? Nobody, I can promise you, nobody else is doing it. And when that customer takes that paper, if they're interested in that property, obviously they're going to see the real estate agent's name on there, but they're going to see our name on there so they can get the quote for the customer, right? So we're doing that as a function of the system so they can actually, help cross promote both the agencies. Keller Williams has something called Bold, which is a kind of like, if you were to send your team to Craig Wiggins' office, it's advanced sales mastery. We'll sponsor a scholarship for a real estate agent to go to Bold. It's an 8-week course, but it's a very, very high level real estate course that costs, $800, but we'll do a scholarship donation to Keller Williams so that they can actually give that to one of their up and coming superstars. So all those different things that we're going to do to build value in their eyes is crucially important. And it's unique because nobody else does things like that. We are on social media. We share their open houses. We do podcasts like, you do. We do insurance 101 education where we have a presentation anytime they have their new member orientation for their new real estate agents. We do an insurance 101 class, and we talk about the importance of why you should know the difference between an HO3 and an HO6 policy. Our language, we know why, but you have to remember real estate agents, they don't know the first thing about insurance. They have no idea. But once you become better educated and you inspire them to be able to talk, in our terms, but be able to simplify it for a customer, their value goes up as well because you're adding value the entire way through. So I think those are some of the things that are unique and different that we do with our real estate partners. On the other side of the fence, when it comes to lenders and mortgage brokers, we all know those type of guys. They're, high eyes on the disc profile. They're go-getters, they're high flyers. They do a ton of volume. A lot of them make a lot of money. Those guys want a different experience. I'll bring them to the Dolphins game and, we'll go in the club seats and then we'll go play, a round of golf and then, have a happy hour after. Those guys are different, but when you wine and dine those guys, you develop a friendship and a partnership with those guys on that level because you're taking the time to be able to actually befriend them. That's a game changer because a lot of times, if you notice, and you probably know this, a lot of the lenders make the decision on where they send the insurance to, right? They're going to be like, hey, we're taking the entire process. Gregg's my guy. You can get, insurance agents all over the country, but Gregg's my guy. If he says that's the best price or the best policy for you, you're going to go with it. So they tend to dictate the policy. So we get a lot of deals that come from lenders from those relationships, and they take time to foster. You're not going to be able to take them to one golf outing or one happy hour. You have to bring it in front of them consistently. It's almost like, when you're dating, you have to date that individual for quite some time before you have a courtship. So it's very, very similar.
Some of your strongest allies right now, how long has it taken you to build those relationships?
Geez, well, the ones that came to me organically were because they used to work for us, but we work on them all year long. But I think from introduction till they're sending us business, probably two meetings. That's it.
Okay, very cool.
Because what we do is we make sure when, we go out and give a presentation, immediately after the presentation, the insurance 101 presentation that we give, it's about 30 minutes. We ask them for a copy of their declaration page so we can actually quote their insurance so they can get an experience of why they should use our agency. And those take the highest priority. So the next day we turn around the quotes for the auto, home, and the flood insurance policy really, really quickly so they can get an experience to see how their customers will be treated. So usually after the second meeting, we're in.
Wow.
Because
dropping
again,
a lot of
nobody's doing that. I can tell you nobody's doing that. Well, maybe 1% of the agency force is, but I know we do it consistently. It's all about consistency.
I can tell you right now, my process isn't remotely as detailed and as good as that is. So you're dropping a lot of value, man. And I know that if you're dropping value for me, you're going to be dropping a lot of value for other people listening. So wow, that's huge. I got a bit of a personal question here for you. I love that you seem to have a lot of fun. I don't know you, but I just, just seeing you're a family man, that you golf, you go to the Dolphin games. You were just recently in Arizona with your family. Was it always like that, or were there a bunch of years where you were in straight grind mode, or you were just wired like that? Like, nope, I'm gonna enjoy life on this process. Or was there a couple of years, like 5-10 years of grind mode?
No, I mean, you could ask my best friends. You can ask, Craig or John. I'm always on like that. It's part of my DNA and it's part of who I am. My oldest daughter is 27. She's in Los Angeles and she's wired the same exact way. It's scary sometimes when I take a step back and my wife puts up with me, but she understands that's kind of what makes me happy. And not to get astrological or anything like that, but I'm a Cancer, and Cancers by nature want to kind of gravitate and bring their people in and protect them, and they want them around them. So it's always been like that for me, but I'm a very high stimulated type of guy. Dolphins games, going on the boat, having people over at the house, traveling. That's just kind of, if you go through your dash, right, you want to make sure that, the juice is worth the squeeze. And that's how it is for me every single day. I couldn't imagine, I've been through a tough time, like in 2006, my mom had passed away. And then in the same year, 6 months later, my stepfather had passed away. And then I got divorced and I lost my house and my boat. Sure, did that suck? Of course it did. But you gotta get punched in the face every now and then to be able to get back off the mat and just continue to grind. So it hasn't been easy. I've taken my share of licks over the years, but I'll never let it get in the way of being balanced at the end of the day, because when I'm home, I'm focused on my family. And when I'm in the office, I'm laser focused on everything I need to do to feed our family, which is all the employees that work in this agency, not for me, but with me.
I love it. Okay. What do you wish more insurance agents asked you? And it could be, it could be employees of ours, or it could be, agency owners, but what do you wish they asked you more?
Simple: for help. For help. I mean, I can't tell you how many agency owners came through my doors over the years, right, and asked for help. And I would drop everything for them to come into the office, and I would show you what my process was and what I did. And at that time, I didn't charge anything for that. I just did it because I know when I first started, nobody wanted to help me. I would call guys down the street, this and that, and they didn't, because I was seen as competition. Listen, guys, the competition isn't the Allstate office next to me or the one down the street. It's the direct writers, the Progressives, and the Geicos of the world. the better that we can function together. And I say this all the time, you go to Chick-fil-A in California, you go into South Carolina, I can guarantee you'll never have a bad experience at that place, right? You know, Chick-fil-A, they're always smiling, they're happy. So we need to do more of that with each other so we can all become better together, because inadvertently, this is what happens. New York, Connecticut, Arizona, people move to Florida and they want to transfer their insurance. So if they're from Las Vegas and Nick's refers me somebody to my agency, anywhere in the state of Florida, we can write it. So why wouldn't they want to have a great experience at one Allstate and not the other? They want to keep that same Allstate family vibe. So if we all work together, we can achieve, you know, some pretty significant things. But what I've seen though, more often than not, is I'll tell an agency owner, you know, this is some of the things you can do to enhance your business or work better with your team or improve your processes. They'll be in a rush to get it right home after they've, you know, maybe participated in an Anthony Robbins seminar. They want to implement everything right at one time, but you can't do it that way, right? I used to come back from those functions all the time and say, okay, guys, I'm going to change my entire business. You can't do that. You have to integrate certain activities that you want to change in little intervals, because if you disrupt your entire system, your team's going to get completely confused. But yeah, I think help. I think if more people, you know, ask for help, got into, you know, either Jeremy's, you know, role play with the Olsen agency or Craig Wiggins coaching platform. I do a lot of coaching on there. All those tools are available for you, but you know, I can teach you how to sell, but I can't teach you how to grind it out and follow up. And that's the kind of the thing that plagues agency owners that I see, is they start a project, but then they fall flat on their face because they're not holding themselves accountable, right? And I think that's the biggest disconnect that I see.
Yeah. Well, I've heard that until people start, you know, paying for the resources, they won't take it seriously. So it's good that you're charging for this now.
Dude, I was just down at an entrepreneurs organization. You have to be invited to come into it. It's $20,000 for the year to be in this group, but I was surrounded with 15 very, very savvy individuals, and I was definitely not the smartest person in the room, but I knew that where I am in my timeline of my career, I needed to start eating at a different table, right? Because the table that I was at was no longer resourceful for me. So I had to eat at a different table. And the things that I learned just in that 2.5-hour luncheon are going to send me into the stratosphere. So I'm a student in the game. I'm always learning, but this is my way to get coaching and support and accountability that I just can't get where I'm at now. Like, things are great. My office is great. Thank God we're healthy. My family's healthy. But for me to grow and get exponentially to the next level, I needed to start investing in me.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, well, just a few more questions. Was there an aha moment for you that took you from good to great? Anyone that you could think of?
Yeah, when I called, I was in my 3rd year and I called Brian Culbertson. You may know Brian, super successful agent that's on the West Coast. He pays his team salary. He pays no commission. He came from the Ted Todd bloodline, and you know, Ted Todd's the #1 largest agent in the entire company. And I called him one day and I said, hey man, you know, understand you're killing it. You know, I'm in a completely different market. You're on the West Coast of Florida. I'm on the East Coast. I said, you know, I'm looking to have a mentor, you know, help me train me in the business. And since you're the #1 guy in Florida, you know, would you mind if I came out there? And he said, absolutely not. It's going to cost you $1,000. You know, I can spend the day with you and I can show you everything, you know, that I do inside my agency. So I literally drove over there. We spent 6 hours together. And the things that I learned while I was inside of his agency flipped everything on its head for me, because now I was doing a great job, but I wasn't efficient, right? I had a lot of wake, you know, pulling my boat through the water. But when I got, you know, really efficient, and that's where I got the processing from, because Brian in his prior life used to be a very big mortgage loan officer and producer, and the processing piece I got from him. But some of the other things I took away, I stole, just like I steal from other agents that are out there, but I put my spin on it and I made it, you know, very homogenous for my agency. But that was my aha moment. And then when I said, hey man, where's it? I'm going to write that $1,000 check. You sure you don't want to? He's like, no, I'm actually going to donate it to my church. So that's the one I knew I was dealing with a guy that, #1, was a role model in his community. And a lot of people don't know this, but Brian is a super successful agency owner, and he's also a pastor at his church. So, me being a Jewish guy, we kind of talk shop, but at the end of the day, this guy was a stand-up guy, donated to a church. It wasn't about the money. It's the fact that he knew that I wanted the mentorship. And I'm telling you guys, most people, if you ask them, like Nick asked for my time, they'll be willing to donate your time. You just have to have the courage to ask, right? That's why God gave you one mouth and two ears, right? To talk and listen.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful, man. I'm totally in my get more efficient stage as well. And so being around some of you guys that have that wisdom, have that structure, is so powerful for me. So, all right, my last question for you, Greg, is the name of this series is called A1 Agents. And when I looked up the definition of what A1 is to the highest of standards. And so I like to ask everybody, what are 3 standards that you live your life by? It doesn't have to be insurance related. If you want it to be, you can, but what are 3 standards that you either run your agency by or you live your life by?
I think the first one is never ask your people to do anything that you're not willing to do yourself. I mean, I think that is extremely important. And that goes hand in hand with, there's no bad people, there's only bad leaders. And that's a quote from, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And I think the third thing is, don't take shortcuts, right? Don't play any games.
Did I miss number 2?
Yeah, number 2 is, there's no bad teams, there's only bad leaders.
Okay.
No bad teams.
Sorry, I was writing down number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And number 3?
Number 3 was, don't take any shortcuts, right? Don't manipulate anything in the system. Don't do anything out of compliance. Work within the rules that whatever your organization has given you. And in every sales compensation program, I've worked for every sales organization you can think of. There's always going to be those professionals that are going to know how to get it done within the rules. Just play within the rules. I've learned the short time I was at Allstate when I first started, I saw more change inside of Allstate than in any organization that I've been at. So if the one constant at Allstate, it's always changed. So make sure that whatever Allstate's chasing, you chase. If they're chasing Motor Club, you chase it. If they're chasing condos, you chase it. But follow where the money goes, excel on that, and you'll be able to be very, very successful. But again, don't take any shortcuts at all.
Okay. All right. I love those 3. And actually, bonus question. What's next for you, Greg? Is there something that's really maybe a calling of some sort, or something that you really have your spirit on, or some sort of a vision that you have over the next several years? Is there anything that anything going on? Anything that
my family is getting bigger. Like I said, my oldest he's 30. I've got 30, 27, 25-year-old, 19, or he's 20 now. I'll be 20. 7 or 8, 17, and 6. I forget my kids' ages. They're so old. I have so many kids, I can't remember all their ages. But I want to. I can spend as much time as I want with them now, but I want them to really enjoy the time they have with their parents, because we're here for a blink of an eye. And the trip out to Sedona, Arizona, to see that the Grand Canyon was carved over millions and millions and millions of years, just puts things in really, really quick perspective for you, right? So the material things in life, really, they're nice, but they don't matter. At the end of the day, it's spending time with the ones that you love and the ones that lift you up, right? Don't get weighed down by the negativity. So I think that's kind of my aspiration, is to help my children be the best version of themselves that they can be. Professionally, as you know, I'm a partner in Craig's brokerage to help agency owners buy and sell, insurance agencies. And I think that came out of a need to help, just like Craig always helps others. We're trying to help agency owners develop themselves. And then, also professionally, I want to be able to, get to the, I already went through my accumulation stage, and there's a bunch of different stages that go through your professional career. Now you want to give to the stage where you're kind of giving back more of your time, more of your mentorship. I mean, you can only drive one car at a time. You can only drive one boat at a time. You can only live in one house at a time. You can only spend so much money at a certain time. But once you get into the disbursement phase of your life and you donate your time, your energy into others, I think that's where you find true peace and balance. And so that's kind of what my second half of my dash is going to be. That's going to kind of fill my tank up to be able to live a very peaceful life in the second half of my career, along with my family and my wife.
Wow, that's powerful. Well, Gregg, before I let you go, I just want to acknowledge you for the human being that you are, man. You didn't know me. We've never exchanged words prior to this. I think you called me one time. I think I called Craig one time, and then you hopped on the FaceTime. You're giving me a hard time. But other than that, you didn't really know me. And so for you to share some of your time, you're literally doing exactly the giving back that you just pointed out. So I really appreciate your time. I know that my YouTube channel is growing, and there are a lot of, YouTube is gonna be I think it's gonna be the go-to for a lot of up and coming insurance agents over the next several years. And the next, you see kids the way they're on YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
And so I know I appreciate you, and I know that you're gonna do a lot of good for future insurance agents as well. So thank you, Gregg, for your time. And if people wanted to, if you're doing I know you're doing consulting for buying and selling. Are you doing coaching as well? You're one of the coaches on Craig's platform for
I say this with bated breath. I just can't with the different businesses and the organization I'm running right now. Craig had asked me about doing the coaching. I might consider that after things kind of calm down, but as you know, I sit on the agency executive council for home office. So I'm involved in a lot of big things that are happening with the leadership perspective. So I don't want to take on too much. So, but if anybody, your viewers have any questions, they can go into the platform. I've got, I think, 6 modules that are in there. I do have a coaching call every other month. So I might get into some coaching lessons down the future with like Justin and Mark, but for right now, just kind of get to the platform and that can help you. But if anybody wants to have any questions answered, or if I can mentor them, with some very specific questions they have, drop me a note. I'm in Allstate's global address book at Gregg Blanchard at allstate.com, guys.
Awesome. Well, Gregg, thank you again for your time, brother. And till next time.
All right. Thanks for having me, Nick. I appreciate it.